Hey guys, it's Elliot here with DnB Academy, and today I want to look at a few hacks I use for writing bass lines within Liquid DnB. So sometimes you'll find that inspiration is there and everything's ready and you start writing and it just kind of flows and it makes sense, right? Other times you sort of need a bit of a helping hand in terms of like getting some of that inspiration moving. You might have everything else there, but the bass line just doesn't work. Or you've tried like a bunch of stuff and it just isn't sitting right, or you're like halfway through. So everything that I show you in this should be applicable regardless of what stage of writing your bass line you're at, but we'll start from the start and then go from there. So I've got some atmospheres at the top here with a filter just automating on those, and we've got some drums. All fairly straightforward, kind of standard Liquid stuff. And I've got two basses here, so we'll ignore that kind of jungle bass for now. I'll come back to that in a bit, but let's look at this Reese. So everything is in the key of E flat. I'll be talking about notes within the scale and sort of how they relate to each other. If you're unsure on how that makes sense, I've done another video on music theory on this channel, which you can check out, and then kind of come back to this one, just so I don't like rehash over too much. But let's create a clip. Let's actually make that half the length. So we've got an 8-bar clip here, and we'll kind of write within this. So first of all is like the sound we've got. So turn that on. So that's the tonic of our key, right? Is E flat. Most people would start on that E flat. You actually don't have to, regardless of the key you're in. You don't have to start on the first note of the key. That kind of throws some people off. But like if I'm in G, the first note of that drop doesn't have to be G, right? It could be any note within the G minor scale, assuming we're in a minor key. And that's the same here. So for example, if I do it so that the last note is an E, that's still fine. It doesn't matter, right, where we're going in the scale. It will all kind of make tonal sense. But the way I think about the first note, rather than if it doesn't have to be that first note, is like, how do I want the first note of that drop to feel? Because whichever note we have in our bass will imply a chord, even if we're not playing a chord. So we've got the atmospheres kind of holding notes over the top. And so everything we're doing underneath these are implying what is going on, basically. So if rather than starting on that E flat there, we start on, which would, if we're talking about minor keys, would be the minor first chord of the scale. For a bit of kind of recollection, the first, the fourth, the fifth are all minor kind of notes, and then the third, sixth and seventh are major. The fifth can be major as well, but for like basic natural minor scales it isn't. And so let's say we start on the 6 instead. Okay, so the 6 would be the B, and I always find that if I'm starting on a major note rather than a minor, it always gives that more like uplifting feel to the chords that we're working with. So let's start that and then go down to the minor. You can hear there's like a tonal shift, like a mood shift almost between those two chords and the way they relate. And the reason is that we've implied a major chord here and we've implied a minor chord there. And you know, you can do that the other way around, so just so you can hear that. And you hear that kind of major like lift in the bass line. And so I sort of think about that when I'm writing. So I quite like that 6. Go down to the 1. And let's go from minor to minor. So let's keep the mood kind of low and then lift it at the end into that 6. So we've got, let me just work out where we're at key wise. So we're looking at G sharp is the 4. And then maybe try a major. So we've got 2 options really for the major without repeating. We've got the 3, which would be the F sharp here, or we've got the 7, which would be the C sharp there. So and just hear how that sounds with a turnaround. Yeah, prefer it on that C sharp there. Cool, so there we go, right? You could obviously like tweak this, and all of this will be preference. And so, you know, it's entirely up to you how that works. You might be listening to this being like, oh, I don't like that bass line, but the process should make sense to you. It's the great thing about music is that we're all like individualistic in the way that we work. So, bassline's written, we've got this, where do we go from here? Again, there's like a bunch of little tricks that we can do to make this more interesting. So the first is an octave jump, right? So, you would have heard that 1,000 times in like different Liquid tunes and stuff, or different like tunes in general. It's just jumping up an octave. We can also do passing notes as well. So rather than jumping as high as an octave, we can just go up a degree or 2 in the scale. And then maybe another. One of the good things about that is that we've got some key tracking on the filter. And so when the bass line jumps up, the filter also opens up as well. So you get some of those top end harmonics from the saw wave coming through. Cool, so let's say we're happy with that, but maybe this one, for example, this last little note, we're not sure on. So I'll delete some space there, and this is where this little jungle bass comes in. It's just 2 saw waves that are detuned against each other. What note is that? So that is a G sharp. So we could put a G sharp in this note in a different bass. So we've then got something that sounds like this towards the end. And you can obviously like balance these and kind of distort or compress them all together so there's a bit more of a gel. Maybe let's put it in the middle there. And you could also do like little jumps with stuff like this as well. So let's do half. Ooh. Little edits like that as well. And just to sort of break up that sort of bass movement basically. I find that this works well as well with like shorter plucked basses. I've been doing that a lot recently. You hear that a lot in tunes like Halogenics and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, 2 really simple tricks, but like I use this a lot if I'm really struggling for inspiration, especially with like remixes and stuff. If you've got remixes that are due out, there's more of like a deadline and a push. I find with original music I've got stacks and stacks of it, so with labels and stuff I've always got something, but with remixes someone expects something and you're like, oh god, right? And you don't have to use the original bass line with a remix either. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Any questions, let us know, and I will see you in the next one.